They weren't slaves, they were volunteers. And they didn't just build a tomb, they built an entire civilization. For over 4,000 years, we've misunderstood the greatest monument ever crafted by human hand. Rising defiantly from the sands of Giza, the Great Pyramid has long stood as a stone enigma, so massive, so precise, it almost defies belief. Myths have swirled around it for centuries. Tales of slaves, alien architects, and lost civilizations. But now, the real story, stranger and more powerful than fiction, is finally coming. Recent archaeological discoveries have unearthed a lost city hidden in the shadow of the pyramids, complete with bakeries, workshops, living quarters, cemeteries, and even medical facilities. The scene showing Egyptian workers sharing a meal: beef, fish, bread, surrounded by family. Nearby, a healer sets a bone in a resting patient. Style: ancient Egyptian scroll art, soft sepia ink on parchment texture, family warmth, communal life, expressive ancient face. DNA analysis tells us something extraordinary. These people weren't foreigners. They were Egyptians, the ancestors of those who still walk the Nile today. And they didn't come here by force. They came out of faith in their pharaoh, in their gods, and in the sacred purpose of building something. This wasn't just an architectural feat. It was the foundation of a nation. The pyramid didn't just house a king's body, it uplifted an. For millennia, the truth lay buried beneath the sands. Now it's re-emerging, and it will rewrite everything you thought you knew about ancient Egypt. This isn't just history, this is a revelation. The scale and wonder of the Giza pyramids, humanity's stone-built legend. Amid the eternal sands of Egypt, three colossal pyramids, Khufu, also known as Cheops, Khafre, and Menkaure, rise not merely as architectural achievements, but as a defiant message carved into stone, a message to time itself. The Great Pyramid of Khufu held the record as the tallest human-made structure on Earth for over 4,000 years until the 20th century. No cranes, no steel, no machines. Just human hands, unyielding will, and a faith in something far greater than life or death. Now imagine this: 2-3 million limestone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 10 tons, quarried, transported, and placed with astonishing precision, accurate down to centimeters. This wasn't just construction. This was alchemy. A stone symphony echo. There isn't a single modern blueprint that can fully explain how the ancient Egyptians accomplished what seems impossible by today's standards. Because they weren't building just to live, they were building to become. The Giza pyramids are more than monuments. They are living declarations, etched in stone, of humankind's timeless desire to transcend mortality. You're not just looking at ancient rock. You're looking at the immortal manifesto of a civilization that once stood at the very peak of the world. And the question still drifting through the sands of Giza is this: how much do we The great lie of the pyramids, and the truth buried beneath the sand. For generations, we were told a lie. A lie so deeply woven into our understanding of the ancient world that it became truth by repetition. A lie that shaped how we imagined Egypt and how we understood. Herodotus said the pyramids were built by slaves. Enslaved souls dragged across the blistering desert, whipped into submission, condemned to build eternal tombs for god-kings who would never speak their names. Hollywood loved it. History books repeated it, and we believed. But now, the sands of Giza are revealing a different story, one that had been silenced for over 4,000 years. Recent archaeological discoveries have uncovered more than 600 graves near the pyramids, untouched, unlooted, undisturbed. These were not tombs of nobles or royalty. There was no gold, no inscriptions of divine bloodlines. Just tools, simple pottery, bones, and a haunting, quiet dignity. The skeletons tell their own story. These people worked hard, that much is clear. Their bones bear the scars of labor, but they also show signs of something else, healing. Broken bones set properly, evidence of surgery, of care. These weren't slaves, they were valued, they were protected. And most powerfully of all, they weren't alone. They were buried beside wives, husbands, and children. We now know these pyramid builders were skilled artisans, laborers, and foremen, living in structured communities with their families. They dined on beef, fish, bread, and beer, not the food of slaves, but of people who belonged. People with purposes. And that is the revelation. The pyramids weren't built with cruelty. They were built with conviction, with belief in a divine king, in a cosmic order, and in the human desire to leave. What if the real story of the pyramids isn't about forced labor, but about collective will? What if the greatest monuments in human history weren't born of fear, but of faith? The myth is dead. And now at last the truth is rising grain by grain, stone by stone from beneath. When we picture the builders of the pyramids, we often imagine tattered bodies toiling under the brutal sun, whipped, broken, and forgotten. But the truth, unearthed from the very sands of Giza, tells a far different. Beneath the looming shadow of those colossal stones once stood a vibrant city, a fully functioning settlement, meticulously organized. There were bakeries with hundreds of clay molds, granaries for storing food, and even food processing complexes that operated like ancient factories. This wasn't a prison, it was a micro-society. And the skeletons they left behind, they tell us something once thought impossible. Men, women, and children lived just steps from the great monument under construction. A real community, not just laborers, but families. These were not people who lived only to work. They lived with meaning, with. Archaeological evidence confirms that their diet was astonishingly rich. Tender beef, fresh Nile fish, baked bread, and beer. This was not the food of slaves. This was the table of those who were. In the shadows of myth, a powerful truth is emerging. The builders of the pyramids were not forced. They were nourished, protected, and entrusted. It was not pain that raised these stones. And through that faith, they carved eternity into stone. They broke bones and healed them. Among the remains of those who built the pyramids, archaeologists uncovered something astonishing: clear evidence of advanced medical treatment. Fractures were not just tended to, they were set with care and precision. Some skeletons even showed signs of amputations that had fully healed, clean, and controlled, not death. These were not battlefield bandages or makeshift splints in the dirt. These were deliberate, practiced, and compassionate interventions, the kind of care one might expect among royal elites, not so-called. So ask yourself, what kind of civilization offers its laborers the medical attention of kings? Because the truth is unmistakable. These people weren't expendable, they were respected, they were protected, and most importantly, someone wanted them to live. For centuries, myths have swirled around the pyramids. Theories claiming they were built by aliens, by lost civilizations, by forgotten races no longer of this world. But today, science delivers a truth as simple as it is seismic. They were Egyptians. DNA analysis from hundreds of excavated skeletons reveals that the pyramid builders came from all across the Nile Valley, from the lush delta in the north to the rugged reaches of Nubia in the south. The blood that flowed in their veins is the same that flows in the people of modern Egypt today. Not aliens, not Atlanteans, not enslaved outsiders. They were indigenous, children of that land, men and women who believed in the pharaoh, in the cosmic order, and in a sacred purpose far greater than. The pyramids are not miracles from another world. They are an immortal declaration carved by the hands of those who called the night. They were not built by mystery. They were built by faith, heritage, and human will. The construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza was not an act of exploitation. It was a nationwide ritual, a sacred mission that unified an entire civilization. Imagine the Amish barn-raising tradition. Now, the organizational structure was astonishingly precise. Each crew consisted of around 1,000 people, divided into 5 smaller squads. They worked in rotating shifts, a massive human system that moved like an ancient machine, designed not to crush individuals, but to harness their strength with. These people were not forced, they volunteered. They came not under the lash, but under a shared sense of loyalty to the pharaoh, a king believed to be the living embodiment of the divine. To build a pyramid was not just labor, it was ritual, it was faith. It was an immortal vow carved into stone, that their lives were not meaningless, but part of a cosmic order far greater than themselves. They weren't just building for a king, they were building for eternity. No cranes, no engines, no steel. And yet, the ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramid of Giza, a wonder so profound that even our modern world still stands in awe. These colossal stones weren't moved by magic, but by wooden sleds gliding over sand slicked with water, a simple idea, but pure genius. To lift the blocks skyward, they built spiral ramps around the rising pyramid. Stone by stone, level by level, it was as if the mountain was growing not from the earth, but from the will of the. And when it was complete, white limestone from Tura made it shine like a divine torch in the heart of the desert. Some said it could be seen for miles, like a lighthouse for the soul. They didn't build for the moment. They didn't build to be remembered. They built to defy time. This was not just engineering. This was faith turned into stone, layered block by block, a solemn vow from humanity to the heavens: we were here. We see stacked stones, but behind each block a world was being born. The Great Pyramid, the first declaration of an organized nation. where humanity first came together under a shared system. To build the pyramid, they invented centralized administration, managing labor, food, materials, and recording everything in sacred hierarchy. It wasn't just built of stone, it was built on an idea that humans could command scale, impose order, and shape destiny. It was never just a tomb for a king. It was the foundation of the first true nation-state on Earth.